They told me there was no seat for me at the will reading. My own husband's will. His niece sat in my place, smiling like the throne was hers. But I stayed quiet, because I had something no one else did. The missing pages they never saw coming, the ones he left just for me. You'd think after 52 years of marriage, I'd be allowed to sit in the front row at my husband's will reading. You'd think anyone would make sure I had a chair, but no. They filled the seats like it was musical chairs. And when the music stopped, I was standing there, forgotten. Actually, that's not the right word. I wasn't forgotten. I was removed. His niece, Madison, took the seat meant for me, the one closest to the attorney, the one I sat in beside my husband when we signed our own wills. 20 years ago. She didn't even look my way, just smoothed her blazer and crossed her legs like she was on a courtroom drama show. I stood by the wall in my sunset purple cardigan and beige flats, hands folded, watching all these people pretend I didn't exist. Madison's father, my husband's estranged brother, was there too, the same brother who hadn't visited in 10 years. And yet, he got a seat, got a smirk on his face, like he'd already cashed a check that hadn't even been written yet. The lawyer, a stiff man with wire glasses and thinning gray hair, looked at me and hesitated. He clearly knew who I was, but he said nothing. He shuffled his papers, cleared his throat, and began reading. My name didn't come up once. Not in the house, not in the accounts, not in the cars, not even the dog. I had to remind myself to breathe. They read it, like it was final, like his niece was now queen of the estate, and I was nothing, an old woman with a faded wedding band and nowhere to sit. When the lawyer finally finished, Madison turned around and gave me the softest, fakest smile I've ever seen. "Auntie, we didn't know you'd be here," she said. Not "I'm sorry," not "are you okay," just that smug little lie with a grin too big for her face. I didn't answer. I didn't even blink, because I knew something she didn't. There was more than one copy of that will, and my husband, God rest his complicated soul, didn't trust anyone, not even his own brother's daughter. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the small table in the apartment they didn't know about, the one my husband helped me rent 5 years ago when things started getting strange. He told me, "If anything happens, everything you need is in the red envelope. Don't open it until you have to." That envelope had sat at the back of my sewing drawer ever since. I never touched it. Never even thought much about it. Until yesterday. So after I left the will reading, I came home, pulled open that drawer, and held that red envelope like it might burn my hands. It wasn't heavy, it didn't feel special. But when I opened it, my heart nearly stopped. Inside were 2 things. First, a handwritten letter in my husband's familiar looping script. And second, a legal document stamped and signed, a revised will, dated 4 months after the one read aloud today. I read the letter first. "My dearest Margaret, if you're reading this, then I didn't make it back to change things in time. And if Madison or Daniel are already circling like buzzards, then this is your proof. I made a new will. I didn't tell anyone, because I knew they'd try something the minute I showed weakness. You are still my wife, my partner, my heart. This document is the truth. Take it to the lawyer I trust, not the one they hire. His name is Connor Mahoney. He's listed below. Show him this. He knows what to do. And Margaret, don't let them take what you built beside me. You earned every part of it. Love always, Henry," I cried. Not because I was sad, but because I had doubted. I thought maybe he'd changed his mind about me. But no, he knew. He saw what I couldn't, and he planned ahead. I folded the will carefully, placed it in a plastic sleeve, and slid it into a file folder. Then I picked up the phone and dialed the number listed under Connor Mahoney. A young voice answered. "Mahoney Legal Group. This is Margaret Whitmore," I said. "I have a document your senior partner needs to see." The receptionist hesitated. Do you mean about Henry? Yes, I replied. I'll schedule you in right away. By the next morning, I was seated across from a much younger man than I expected. Brown curls, blue eyes, and a firm handshake. But when he read the document I handed him, he stopped talking completely. This is legitimate, he said, flipping through the pages. Signed, witnessed, notarized, and very different from the copy they filed. I thought it might be, I said quietly. He nodded slowly, his face shifting from confusion to outrage. If this is real, and it absolutely appears to be, you're the primary beneficiary. Not Madison. Not Daniel. You. I didn't cry this time. I just nodded and said, then let's fix what they tried to erase. He looked at me, not like I was old, or weak, or small, but like I was someone to be reckoned with. I'll take care of this, Mrs. Whitmore, he said. And when we're done, they'll have to answer for everything. I stood, buttoned my cardigan, and gave him the same smile Madison gave me. But mine wasn't fake. Mine was patient. Because I wasn't just going to take back what was mine. I was going to make sure she never got to do this to anyone again. Connor Mahoney doesn't waste time. By the next morning, he has already contacted the county clerk, checked the probate court files, and confirmed what I suspected. The will Madison presented had been filed quietly, just 4 days after Henry passed. The version I had, the one Henry wrote by hand and had officially notarized with 2 witnesses, was never submitted. Why? Because no one knew it existed except me and Henry. Connor leans back in his office chair and shakes his head slowly, tapping the edge of my husband's final letter like it's a ticking clock. They had everything lined up, he says. Madison filed fast. She knew if this newer will surfaced, she'd be out. I sip the lukewarm tea they offered me and nod. Still calm. Still steady. My fingers wrap around the teacup like it's the only warm thing in this office. What happens now? I ask. Connor exhales. We file a petition to challenge the will. We present your version. The court will investigate, compare dates, look for fraud, and once they realize the revised will is valid, they lose everything they tried to steal. I finish for him. He doesn't smile. He doesn't have to. The truth speaks for itself, and the truth finally is on my side. I go home to the apartment no one knows about. A small 1-bedroom above a quiet coffee shop Henry and I used to visit. He helped me rent it years ago when things at the house started to feel unsafe. It was never violent. Not physically. But it was all those little things. The way Madison started visiting more often, whispering in Henry's ear. The way she offered to help with the paperwork and make sure things were in order, always with a too sweet smile. I remember the night she told me I shouldn't worry about the business stuff anymore. You deserve to rest, she said, pouring me tea like I was already on hospice. I knew what that meant. She wanted me invisible. Instead, I became silent. And sometimes, that's more dangerous. When the petition is filed, Madison doesn't respond right away, but it only takes 2 days before I get the first call. Blocked number. Middle of the afternoon. I let it go to voicemail. Then another. Then a third. Finally a message. Margaret, can we please talk? I had no idea. Let's just figure this out. I play it twice, then I delete it, because I remember what she said when I walked into the will reading. I didn't know you'd be here. She knew. She just didn't care. She wanted the spotlight, the money, the legacy. And now, she's watching it slip out of her hand. Connor calls me later that week and tells me Madison's attorney responded. They're panicking, he says. They know they've been caught. I close my eyes and nod. Then we move forward. He pauses. Margaret, they might offer a settlement, a share of the estate, to avoid court. I have to ask, are you open to negotiation? I take a breath, let it fill every part of me, then say, No, I don't want part of it. I want what Henry gave me, all of it. There's a silence on the line. The kind that says, they underestimated you. Understood, Connor replies. Then we hold the line. 2 weeks pass before I see her again. It's a court-mandated meeting. Mediation. No cameras, no jury, just a quiet room and 2 tables. One for them, one for me. Madison walks in like she's still winning. Her hair pulled tight, heels sharp enough to stab a heart, lips curled in a polite little pout. She looks at me once, then quickly away. I just sit there in my cardigan and flats, holding a folder in my lap. Connor speaks first. Our side has presented the valid, most recent will, complete with notarization and witness statements. We're requesting the dismissal of the earlier version filed by Miss Carter. Madison's lawyer, some flashy man with slicked back hair and a designer pen, starts to argue. The original will reflects a consistent history of inheritance intent. The revised document was kept secret because my client's husband feared manipulation. Connor interrupts, which now appears fully justified. Madison shifts in her chair. For the first time her confidence slips, and for the first time I meet her eyes. There's no anger in me anymore. Just clarity. She tried to erase me. Now I'm writing myself back in bold ink. The judge reviews both wills. He looks at dates, signatures, witnesses, and when he lifts the second document, Henry's real last wishes, he doesn't hesitate. This version is legally sound, he says. It supersedes the previous one. The court recognizes it as the valid will. Just like that, everything she stole, gone. And I reclaim every inch of what was mine. Outside the courtroom, Madison follows me. Aunt Margaret, please. I stop. Slowly turn around. She looks smaller now, not just shorter. Smaller. Please, she says again. I didn't know. Uncle Henry. He never said anything. No, I say. Because he saw what you were doing. And he planned for it. She starts to speak again, but I shake my head. I watched you take my seat, I whisper. But I never gave up my place. Then I walk away. Calm. Certain. Unshaken. That night, I sit on the back porch of the house. Madison tried to steal. The same one Henry built with his bare hands. The wind moves through the trees, and I swear I can almost hear his voice. You held on. And I did. Now I hold the deed. The bank account. The heirlooms, even the dog. The one she didn't mention at all. But more than that, I hold my name, my dignity, and the knowledge that sometimes the quietest ones leave the loudest impact. They tried to bury me under legal tricks and fake smiles. But I had something stronger. The truth, and a husband who, even in death, never stopped protecting me. People think revenge is loud. A courtroom shout, a slammed door, a dramatic reveal. But the truth is, real revenge is quiet. It's calm. It's when they realize they've lost. And you didn't even have to raise your voice. A week after the judge validated Henry's real will, the whispers start. First in our neighborhood, then at the club Madison loved to brag about belonging to. Turns out, people talk when someone tries to cheat a widow. And Madison, she wasn't just caught. She was exposed. I get a letter in the mail, not a card. Not a typed apology. A full-page, handwritten letter on thick, cream stationery. It smells faintly of perfume. Probably the expensive kind, that covers guilt with rose petals. It's from Madison, she writes. I was only doing what I thought Uncle Henry would have wanted. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just panicked when everything happened so fast. I hope we can start over. I fold the letter neat, then slide it into a manila folder labeled Unsent Apologies. One I started years ago, when I first began keeping track of the things people say after they get caught. Funny how no one apologizes when they're still winning. Connor calls a few days later. He sounds almost cheerful. Her lawyer is trying to negotiate a face-saving statement, he said. They want to avoid press coverage. I chuckle softly. Let them scramble. Would you like to respond? I think for a moment. Only if it's in writing. I want her to read every word and feel it sink in. He agrees, and I spend the next hour writing carefully. Each word deliberate, not cruel, not emotional. Just clear. What you did was not a misunderstanding. You orchestrated it. You excluded me. Forged familiarity with a dying man's memory, and pretended not to notice when I stood in the room without a seat. I saw you, and now, so does everyone else. It doesn't take long before I hear from people Henry and I hadn't seen in years. Old friends stop by with pies and teary hugs. One neighbor brings flowers and says, I never liked the way she talked to you, Margaret. We all saw it. We just didn't say anything. And I smile, because now they're saying everything. Madison is removed from 3 charitable boards Henry once supported. The executor who helped her file the first will gets audited, and her father, Henry's brother, suddenly finds himself uninvited to the next Whitmore Foundation meeting. Because you don't cross the widow and expect to stay on the guest list, I visit the house again. The real house, the one Henry and I built, brick by brick, back when love was still new and money was still tight. I walk through the rooms. Madison tried to claim the kitchen, with my spice rack still perfectly arranged, the living room where Henry would sit and read the paper while I crocheted blankets for winter. She tried to empty this place of me, but I was in the bones of the house, and now I am its rightful owner again. Later that night, I open the cedar chest in the bedroom and pull out an old photo album. Inside are pictures of Henry and me on our honeymoon. Black and white at the beach, his arm around me, both of us smiling like the world had just begun. And tucked behind it, something I hadn't seen in years, a faded birthday card Madison made for me when she was 11. I read it slowly. To Aunt Margaret, you make the best cookies in the world. I love you. It hurts more than it should, because the little girl who wrote that, she disappeared somewhere along the way. Ambition swallowed affection, greed replaced gratitude, and now, all that's left is a signature on a fake will, and a reputation in ashes. Connor calls again. This time, it's not legal business. I just wanted to check in, he says. You doing all right? I pause, then smile. Better than I've been in years. He hesitates. Would you ever consider speaking publicly? The way this played out, it's a cautionary tale. You could help other people in similar situations. The idea surprises me. Me? Speak out? But then I remember that room, that wall I stood against while they read Henry's fake will. That humiliation, that silence. And I realize, maybe it's time for someone like me to say something, to remind others that dignity isn't age-dependent. That silence doesn't mean surrender. I tell him, let me think about it. And I do. A week later, I agree to a small interview with a local paper. Nothing dramatic, just facts. The reporter asks thoughtful questions, not about the money, but about what it felt like to be erased. And when the article comes out, the headline reads, Widow reclaims late husband's legacy after being cut out of will reading. They took my seat, I took back the truth. The moment it's published, my inbox fills with messages from strangers, women I've never met, older couples, retired teachers, single mothers, all saying the same thing. Thank you for standing up. Thank you for not letting them win. Thank you for reminding us we're not invisible. That night I sit alone on the porch again. Same breeze, same quiet, but this time, there's peace. Because revenge wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of being seen, of being heard, of being remembered, not as a victim, but as the one who came back and reclaimed everything. There's a strange thing that happens after you win. People stop pretending they didn't see what happened. The same neighbors who averted their eyes when Madison snubbed me now wave extra long at the mailbox. They ask if I need help with groceries. The woman at the bank greets me by name again. It's not that I need their kindness. It's that now they recognize me. Not as a helpless widow or an old lady to be sidelined, but as a woman who stood her ground and didn't flinch when the family vultures came circling. I didn't just reclaim Henry's will. I reclaimed my place. And with that place came power. The Whitmore Foundation holds its first annual board meeting since Henry's passing. Madison used to be the young face of the next generation, always sitting near the front, taking notes like she was preparing to take over. Now, she's not on the guest list. But I am. When I walk into that conference room wearing Henry's favorite pearl brooch and a steel blue blazer, heads turn, and no one misses the seat I take at the head of the table. I don't speak first. I wait, I watch. And when I do speak, it's clear and steady. We'll continue the scholarship program, I tell them. But this year we're adding a fund for caregivers and elder legal support. Too many stories like mine never reach a courtroom. One board member, a man who once told Henry I was too soft-hearted, leans forward. That's a strong addition, Mrs. Whitmore. I smile. No one protects legacies better than the people who built them. He nods. And no one argues, because they all know now. I built this with Henry, and now I carry it forward. Back at the house, I begin sorting through everything Madison left behind in her rush to escape scandal. Papers, notebooks, even a few receipts that show how deep her manipulation ran. Gift purchases on Henry's credit card. Legal fees, she labeled as estate planning, but were really consultations to secure early transfers of assets. It's all there, neatly filed, hidden in plain sight. I take photos, I scan documents, I save copies on a flash drive Connor gave me. You never know, he told me. Better to keep proof, not because I plan to go after her further, but because she may try something else someday, and I'll be ready. I find one drawer in the study she never opened. It's still locked with the old brass key Henry kept on his keychain. Inside, I find a collection of letters, dozens, some dating back to our early marriage, others just a few years old. They're all addressed to me, some never sent, others clearly written, but folded with care and tucked away. One stands out. Written just weeks before he died. Margaret, I know Madison's hovering. I know you've noticed. I should have said more, done more. But I didn't want to spend what time I had fighting. I wanted peace with you. But I also didn't want you left with nothing. That house, that name, that foundation. We built it, you and me. So don't let anyone sit you in the back row. Don't let anyone erase your name from what we made together. And if they try, you know what to do. You always have. All my love, Henry. I hold the letter to my chest and sit in that study until the light fades, not in grief, not in sorrow, in gratitude, because even after death, he knew me, trusted me, respected me, and now, so does everyone else. One evening, I go to the cafe Henry and I used to visit before his treatments. It's quiet, almost empty. Just me, A barista and an old man scribbling in a crossword at the corner table. The waitress recognizes me. "You're the one from the newspaper," she says, setting down my tea. "The lady who took the will back." I nod slowly. "That's me." She looks at me for a second, then says, "You gave a lot of us hope." I blink. "Hope?" She leans closer. "To speak up, to not just accept it when someone tries to take what we built." I sip my tea, let the warmth rise through my chest. "I didn't think anyone was watching," I say softly. "They were," she replies. "We still are." Later that week, I attend the local estate law seminar. Connor invited me too. He calls it Protecting the Silent Partner, a seminar for spouses. They ask me to speak. At first, I hesitate. I'm no public speaker. My voice shakes. Just standing in front of the church bake sale, let alone a hall full of lawyers and widows. But then I see the faces in the crowd, so many like mine, older women, some alone, some with folders clutched in their hands, all of them with story, and I realize mine wasn't just revenge, it was a reminder. So I step up to the podium, and I begin. I wasn't angry the day they took my seat at the will reading. I was invisible. But that silence? It became power. Because the one thing they didn't count on was that I had the last page. That night, my inbox is full again. Emails, notes, stories, women telling me they wrote letters to their husbands, others saying they called their lawyers, some just saying thank you. And I sit back in the house. I fought to reclaim, under the light Henry installed above our reading nook, and I feel something rare. Not just peace, but purpose. They took my seat. I took back the pages. And now, I'm helping others write their own. I don't know when I became the woman people call when they're betrayed. Maybe it was after that article. Maybe it was after I stood at that podium and spoke to a room full of women who looked just like me. Tired, silenced, and fed up. But suddenly, people started showing up. Not just for sympathy, for strategy. The retired librarian, whose daughter forged her signature to sell the family car. The widow whose stepchildren emptied her husband's business account before the funeral was over. The quiet, gray-haired lady who'd never spoken in public until she said, "They called me a guest in my own home." They all had one thing in common. Someone they trusted thought they wouldn't fight back, and they were wrong. Connor and I decide to host a free legal clinic at the community center. He handles the paperwork. I handle the tea and cookies. And the stories. I sit with woman after woman. Some cry. Some just stare blankly at the walls. Some speak in barely a whisper. But all of them have been pushed out of something they helped build. Families, homes, businesses. I tell them the truth. It's not petty to want what's yours. It's not dramatic to stand up. It's not just money when it's your life's work they're taking. They nod, sometimes for the first time, because someone finally understands. One night, Connor calls with a voice full of disbelief. "Margaret, you're not going to believe this." "What now?" "Madison. She's suing." "The suing." I pause. Then slowly sit down on the edge of the bed. "On what grounds?" "She's claiming emotional distress. Says the public exposure and slander from your speech hurt her social and business reputation." I can't help it. I laugh. Not cruelly, just honestly. A deep from-the-gut laugh that rises like steam from years of being quiet. "She tried to erase me," I say. "And now she's upset that people finally see her for who she is." That's the gist. "What's our move?" Connor's voice sharpens. "We counter with the evidence, the altered will, the financial records, and we file for damages, legal costs, emotional distress, and defamation for what she did in the first place." I take a breath. Let's do it. The media gets wind of the new case. Local papers print it first. Then an online legal blog. Then a women's justice group shares my story on their platform. Suddenly, I'm not just Margaret Whitmore, widow of a successful businessman. I'm the face of a quiet rebellion. Proof that the ones they count out often carry the receipt. Madison's emotional distress lawsuit doesn't make it far. Not when the judge sees the original will, the court transcript, the private emails she sent calling me just the old lady with the ring. Not when Connor plays the recording of her lawyer offering me a settlement to disappear quietly. Not when we present the real story. The judge throws out the case, but I don't stop there. I turn around and file a suit of my own. Not for vengeance, for accountability, for the time, money, and dignity she tried to steal. And I win. A six-figure judgment, public apology, and a restraining order that keeps her off the property she once claimed. With confident heels and a lying smile, Madison vanishes from the social circuit after that. But her name, it stays exactly where it belongs, in the court record, in the warning signs, in the rearview mirror of women who will never let her or anyone like her erase them again. People say I should rest, that I've done enough, but I know better, because for every Madison, there's 1,000 others. And some of them don't have a Henry who wrote a secret will. Some of them don't have a Connor. Some of them don't have anyone. So I keep showing up to the clinics, to the workshops, to the town halls, and I tell my story. Not to relive it, but to rewrite what comes next. One afternoon, I find a card taped to the community center door. It's handwritten, folded neatly, no name on the outside. Inside it says, "Because of you I filed my papers. I stood up, I stayed in my seat. Thank you for reminding me I belong." I don't know who wrote it, but I know what it means. It means the pages I took back weren't just for me. They became chapters in someone else's story. They became a guidebook. I go home that night and stand in front of the mirror. Same cardigan, same gold wedding band, same silver gray bob, brushing my shoulder. But something's changed. Not the outside, the gaze, the knowing, the unshakable calm of a woman who didn't just survive betrayal. She rewrote the ending, and she's not done yet. They used to see me as background, the quiet one at holiday, the one who made the pies, kept the peace, cleaned the messes, and stayed out of the spotlight. But now they watch me walk into a room and wonder what I know, what I've kept, what I've written down, because they finally understand. I'm not the quiet one anymore. I'm the one who kept the pages. After the lawsuit ended and the dust settled, I didn't celebrate with champagne or a vacation. I celebrated by sitting down with other women and helping them sort their documents into piles, what they know, what they suspect, and what they can prove. The truth is, Madison wasn't the first to try and erase a woman from her own story, and she won't be the last. But now I know how to fight, and I'm teaching others. Connor and I co-founded something called the Last Word Project. It started as a monthly legal help desk, but it's growing into something bigger, a nationwide resource hub for older women dealing with estate fraud, power grabs, and financial abuse. We get calls from Georgia, Minnesota, even Alaska. I never imagined I'd be doing interviews on Zoom at my age. But here I am, explaining to a room full of women how I spotted Madison's lies before anyone else believed me. Because I paid attention, I said. Because I kept records. Because I knew the law doesn't always protect the loudest voice. It protects the one who doesn't give up. And yet, every once in a while I get reminded that my victory still stings in certain circles. At a fundraising event for the Whitmore Foundation's new legal aid program, I run into Madison's father, Henry's brother. His handshake is cold, his smile tight. He leans in, trying to sound polite. "Quite a crusade you're on, Margaret." I meet his eyes. "It's not a crusade, it's a correction." He scoffs. "You never did like keeping things quiet, did you?" I smile gently. I was quiet long enough. Now I'm just telling the truth. He doesn't speak again. But others do. Donors, attorney, even the mayor's office sends a thank you letter for launching the aid program. Madison may have tried to bury my name, but now it's engraved on the plaque above the foundation's legal help wing. I get a call one morning from a woman named Ruth. Her son tried to put her in a home so he could sell her house. She says I thought I had no choice. And I tell her, you always have a choice. You just need the right papers and the right people who believe you. We work with her for 3 weeks. She fights back and wins. She sends me a picture afterward. Her sitting on her porch, a lemonade in her hand, the deed in the other. The caption, still standing, still mine. I print it and hang it next to Henry's photo in the study. But the biggest surprise comes months later. I get a certified envelope in the mail. Legal looking. I assume it's another document request. But when I open it, I freeze. It's from Madison. Her signature is on the bottom. She's transferring her remaining share of the Whitmore Foundation stock to me. Completely. No condition. No letter attached. Just the document and the seal. I don't know what pushed her to do it. Guilt? Pressure? Fear? Maybe even respect. It doesn't matter. Because now, the foundation, what Henry built, what I preserved, is fully in my hands. And the circle is closed. I sit alone that night in our bedroom. The windows are open. The air smells like lilac and old books. Henry's chair still sits across from mine, quiet and sturdy. I take out one of his old journals, flip through the pages, until I find the line I remembered from years ago. Some people inherit money. Others inherit the fight to protect it. I close the book and whisper into the room. I did both, Henry. And somehow I feel like he heard me. My voice has grown stronger. Not louder, just more certain. People ask me all the time now, how did you stay so calm when they tried to erase you? And I tell them the truth, because I knew the truth. Never needed to shout. It just needed to survive long enough to be heard. It's spring again. The same season Madison first tried to bury me with smiles and small print. Funny, isn't it? That she thought moving my seat to the back of the room was the worst she could do. But it wasn't the insult that hurt. It was the truth behind it. That she didn't see me as a threat. That she thought I was soft, easy to erase. She never expected me to turn the page, and she certainly didn't expect me to write the next ones in ink. The Whitmore Foundation throws its largest event yet. The ballroom is full. Lawyers, judges, activists, even a few young law students from the very college Henry once donated to. Connor's running around, making sure everything runs smoothly. His mother's here too, and she squeezes my hand when she sees me. You've changed so many lives, she whispers. I smile, starting with my own. The keynote speaker, a 32-year-old woman named Rachel, stands at the podium with tears in her eyes, as she tells the room how her stepbrother nearly stole everything their father left her. Until she came across my story online. She didn't just inspire me, Rachel said. She gave me the blueprint. The courage, the belief that just because you're the quiet one doesn't mean you're the weakest. Then she turns to me. And now, Mrs. Whitmore. Margaret, you have the seat you always deserved. The crowd rises, applause thunders through the room, and for the first time in a long time, I don't feel like I'm standing alone. I feel seen. Later I walk outside onto the balcony. The air is warm, scented with gardenias. Below, the city buzzes with life. I look up at the stars and think about everything that's changed. The house is still mine. The foundation is stronger than ever. The will is intact. And Madison, she moved to Oregon, I hear. Started a tiny bookkeeping business. Quiet. No drama. She hasn't contacted me since transferring the last of her shares. Maybe she finally learned. Maybe she didn't. But I don't waste time wondering anymore. Because my story was never about her. It was about reclaiming the part of me I gave away too easily. My authority, my voice, my name on the spine of our family legacy. Now, it's back where it belongs. I visit Henry's grave on the way home. Not out of obligation, not out of mourning. Out of love, I kneel beside the smooth stone and rest my hand on the carved lettering. It reads, Henry Whitmore, beloved husband, builder of legacy, but underneath it now I've added a second line. Margaret Whitmore, beloved wife, keeper of truth. I smile as the breeze lifts the ends of my silver gray hair. You'd be proud, I whisper. But you always knew I could do it, didn't you? The wind answers in rustling leaves and soft night air. That's enough. At home I sit down in the study. The same chair Madison tried to claim that first week after the funeral. It's mine now. No contest. On the desk is a fresh journal. I open it and begin to write, not about the past anymore, about what comes next. Because I've already told the story of how they tried to take my seat. Now I'm writing the story of how I helped hundreds of women take theirs. And every time a woman holds a deed in her hands or hears a judge rule in her favor, or simply says no when someone tries to silence her, I'll know the pages we fought for meant something. I didn't just take back what Madison tried to steal. I took the silence they left behind, and I turned it into a voice, one that will echo long after I'm gone. Because the truth is this, they only thought the story ended at the will reading, but I was just getting started.